It's 5:30 here on the Truman State campus, and welcome to TMN Television on Thursday, February 11th. I'm Amber Draper.
And I'm Jonah McKeown. New tonight, we go over the highlights of University President Troy Pano's State of the University Address.
Plus, we look at how Truman and AT Still are setting up a program, making it possible for new students to get their undergraduate and medical degrees in 7 years.
And after that, catch up on Truman sports with the Dog Pound.
These stories and more tonight on TMN Television. You don't want to miss this.
Presidential candidate Donald Trump won the Republican primary in New Hampshire on Tuesday, while Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders won on the Democratic side. Trump defeated Ohio Governor John Kasich by more than 15%, and Sanders beat former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by a 20-point margin. The other remaining Republicans in the race are former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and Dr. Ben Carson. The next primary will be in South Carolina, with the Republican primary on February 20th and the Democratic primary on February 27th.
University President Troy Pano gave the annual State of the University address yesterday. Pano discussed the proposed concealed carry bill, saying he currently opposes the bill because of the high suicide rates and binge drinking among college students. But he says he is willing to compromise on a new version of the bill that better fits these concerns. Pano also says the future Greenwood Autism Clinic plans to open by spring 2017. He says the clinic will be a hands-on, high-impact learning facility for Truman students to work with local autistic children. Pano discussed the blueprint teams, which have put together recommendations that will become a flexible foundation for the future of Truman. These include altering the LSP and mode requirements and better preparing students for GINS courses. The teams also recommended changes to the student application process and further investment in faculty development. Pano says one of his main priorities is to increase faculty salaries and close the address by encouraging faculty to continue relating coursework to its practical application for students.
Truman State and AT Still University officials signed an agreement which enables students to complete their medical studies in just 7 years. Health Sciences Department Chair Roberta Donahue says the pre-med accelerated track will be a very specific course of action for students. The track enables selected Truman Health and Exercise Science students to complete their first 3 years at Truman, then transfer to AT Still. After students complete their first year of medical school, those credits will transfer to Truman, where the students will then receive their BS in health or exercise science. The program will be available to freshmen beginning fall 2016.
After the break, stay tuned for our sports segment, The Dog Pound, hosted by Sarah Hicks.
But before all that, let's take a look at this week's weather forecast.
For just $4, get a double cheeseburger, a spicy chicken sandwich, fries, and a Coke. It's the heavyweight champion of deals. The $4 Real Deal, only at Hardee's.
Hey Truman State, my name is Sarah Hicks and this is The Dog Pound, always brought to you by Hardee's. After watching The Concussion, starring Will Smith, I decided I would look into how our athletic trainers treat and diagnose concussions for our Truman State athletes. I sat down with head athletic trainer Michelle Boyd to discuss the issue. Let's take a look.
Sure. Athletic training is a complicated term. Athletic trainers are responsible for emergency care, prevention and then treatment of injuries. And here, concussion diagnosis is really challenging because there isn't any one test that can tell you what a concussion is or whether someone has a concussion. And so you have to go through a series of tests and try to see if they have any one of those symptoms. So we'll do a thorough history on them, see if they were hit in the head, ask them a series of symptoms, so anything from ringing in their ears to a headache to memory loss to emotional distress to difficulty sleeping. We'll ask them about all of those. We'll test their eyes, their vision, their pupil reflexes. We'll test their balance. We'll ask them memory questions. And then we also have a computer test we can use that tests their reaction speed, their visual memory, and their verbal memory. Concussions aren't as common as I think we're being led to believe. We think it's a massive problem, and certainly treating it is challenging and it's important, but the number of concussions we see in football, we probably see 3 or 4 a season here at Truman.
After learning that concussions are not as prominent in our athletes as we make them out to be, I sat down with women's head basketball coach Amy Egan to see how she tailors her practices to keep her athletes healthy.
Well, we rely a lot on our weight program and our conditioning program for that. And we talk about how important it is to, hopefully they've done it over the summer, but to really complete those things in preseason to stay healthy throughout the year. So we do rely a lot on that. You know, when you get to this time of the year, you just don't practice as much. You know, Sundays we lift, and a little bit of a recovery day. We just do some individual skill work usually. Mondays we have off, and then Tuesdays you only practice about an hour and a half usually. So definitely a little lighter.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. As always, be sure to support your Bulldogs. As always, I am Sarah Hicks reporting for the Truman Media Network, and this has been the Dog Pound.
Coming up next, we'll talk about TMN TV's newest talk show with our host, Amber Draper. We'll be right back.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
This ready.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
On February 21st, TMN will air its newest spring talk show, Rising from Our Roots, which is hosted by our very own Amber Draper. So Amber has agreed to talk to us today about her new show. So thank you, Amber, for that. So can you tell us about the premise of this new show?
Yeah, so I wanted to create a show that kind of focused on the history of movements and organizations. I'm a little bit of a history buff myself, and so I wanted to look at how the development of those organizations and movements have kind of impacted the people currently involved in them. So far I've had a lot of fun researching about these organizations and interviewing people who are really trying to live up to the legacy of what they're a part of.
Okay, so you said you're a bit of a history buff, but how specifically did you come up with the premise for this show?
So actually originally I was not interested in hosting a talk show, but I remember during a time during the summer, everything literally just came to me, and I went home immediately and I wrote everything down. And from that point, the idea has really developed, and I'm really happy with the way that things are starting to progress with the idea, and I'm really excited to continue with all of the future episodes.
Okay, so what can viewers expect from the very first episode?
So the very first episode is one that I'm actually really excited about. It's about the Divine Nine, and for those who don't know, the Divine Nine is comprised of fraternities and sororities that are historically African American. And I think when people think of fraternities and sororities, they think of partying or being really well known on campus, but these organizations go beyond that. One of the main reasons why they were created was to create a sisterhood and brotherhood between African Americans, and the reason that they all started was because they couldn't join other fraternities and sororities because they were people of color. So I actually had a really good time interviewing 2 people who are a part of the Divine Nine and talking to them about why it's so important. One, because the organizations themselves go out and support equality amongst minorities on a national level as well. So it was really, really cool to talk to these guys and see why it's so important to them and how they're living up to the dreams of why it all started.
So Truman does have members of the Divine Nine here on campus.
Yes, there are a total of 9. Unfortunately, we only have 2 active fraternities that are a part of the Divine Nine, and we don't have any sororities, which is why I again wanted to kind of showcase this, because I don't think many people know that they're even on campus. So I had a lot of fun doing it, and I really kind of wanted to just inform people about the organizations.
Okay, very interesting. So last year we had Justin Lewis's talk show, Live to Inspire. How is this show different from that one?
So I was personally a really, really big fan of Justin's talk show, and I think without Justin doing a talk show, or Jackie Yu, who hosted a talk show a couple years ago, I don't even think I would have thought of doing a talk show as a possibility. So they did really inspire me to kind of come up with this idea and kind of execute everything. But I think the biggest difference between my talk show and Justin's is that Justin really focused on the individual in their story, and it was really, really personal in that aspect. But mine has more to do with the organization as a whole and kind of what they have done that has kind of made it possible for the people involved in them to kind of live up to that and kind of continue the legacy.
Okay. So what actually goes into the process of actually creating a talk show?
So there's actually a lot that goes into the process. You know, we have filming, we have interviews, we have contacting different people, we have editing, we have the writing. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I definitely don't do it alone. And so there are a lot of people behind the scenes that help with everything as well.
So did any part of the process really surprise you?
I think the number one thing that surprised me doing this talk show was I didn't realize how much fun I was going to have doing it. I think of all the activities that I've done at Truman, this is actually one of the things that I've had a lot of fun doing, and I wasn't exactly expecting that just because it is really time consuming and there's not necessarily an exact schedule of when everything's going to get done, but it's definitely worth it, and I'm really, really happy the way everything has turned out so far.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for telling us all about this, Amber, and we're really looking forward to seeing your show, which airs February 21st at 5:30 p.m. right here on Channel 36. And that brings us to the end of our news program tonight. Be sure to check out our exclusive web content at tmn.truman.edu. And for weekend updates and special coverage, look for TMN Television on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
And for complete multimedia coverage, be sure to pick up a copy of The Index and tune into KTRM on 88.7 The Edge. From all of us at TMN Television, thank you for tuning in and have a great rest of the week.